Somewhere between the keyboard and the screen, there's a quiet fear that's hard to name. It's the fear that if we let AI write our code, we'll slowly lose the ability to write it ourselves. This isn't about rejecting AI. The tools are here and they're useful, but using them without thinking, that's where the risk lives. What we're going to explore isn't a set of rules. It's a way of approaching your craft when the world is handing you shortcuts. I want to share what I've learned about staying close to the work, close enough that you still recognize the code you ship. I don't have a perfect system. Some days I lean on AI more than I should. Other days I turn it off entirely. The goal isn't purity, it's awareness. If you felt that small tension between speed and understanding, this is for you. Know your tool before you lean on it. The first thing I noticed when I started using AI code assistants wasn't their speed. It was how quickly I stopped reading the suggestions carefully. I'd accept a block of code because it looked right, it compiled. The tests passed, but if you'd asked me to explain a specific line, I would have stumbled. That's when I realized I was treating the AI like a black box, the exact thing I'd never accept from a library I imported. So I made a simple rule. Before accepting any AI-generated code, I pause for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, I ask myself, do I understand what this is doing and why? If the answer isn't an immediate yes, I step through it. Sometimes I type the code out by hand just to feel it. Other times I ask the AI to explain its own output, not as a test, but as a conversation. It's surprising how often that conversation reveals a complexity I'd missed. This doesn't slow me down the way I feared. It slows me down in the way that matters, the way that builds understanding instead of just building software. Pair with the machine. Don't hand over the keyboard. I used to think of AI-assisted coding like having a very fast, very confident junior developer. That comparison isn't perfect, but it's useful. A junior developer can write code that works. They might even write it quickly, but they don't always see the edge cases. They don't always know when a pattern is overkill. And if you never review their work, they never learn, and neither do you. The mental shift that helped me was moving from AI writes, I accept, to AI drafts, I refine. I treat every suggestion as a first pass. I'll take the shape of a solution, but I reshape it until it fits the code base, the team's style, and my own standards. I rename variables. I restructure logic. I remove abstractions that don't earn their place. And in doing that, I feel ownership return. The code becomes mine again, not something I borrowed from a model. Sometimes I'll ask the AI to generate 3 different approaches to the same problem. Then I'll choose the one that feels simplest. That process alone teaches me things I wouldn't have learned if I'd just accepted the first option. Use AI for exploration, not for production. There's a kind of coding that feels like drawing on a napkin. It's loose, it's experimental, and it's where I've found AI to be genuinely transformative, without any threat to my craft. When I'm exploring a new library or trying to understand a tricky algorithm, I'll use AI to generate tiny throwaway examples. I'm not building anything reusable. I'm building understanding. The key insight is this. The AI is helping me learn, not helping me ship. The code it generates in these sessions rarely survives. It's scaffolding for my brain. By the time I'm ready to write production code, I often close the assistant entirely. I want the final work to pass through my own hands. This separation, exploration versus execution, has become a quiet ritual. It lets me get the best of both worlds. Speed, where accuracy doesn't matter, and depth, where it does. Protect the spaces where you build alone. Here's something I don't hear discussed enough. There are certain moments in coding that feel like woodworking. You're shaping something with your hands, and the quiet focus is part of the point. If AI fills those moments, something subtle is lost. Not productivity, something closer to the joy of the craft. I've started protecting at least one coding session per week, where I don't use AI at all. I pick a small thing, a refactor, a personal project, a kata, and I do it with the assistant turned off. It feels harder at first, slower, but within 20 minutes, I'm thinking differently. I'm holding more of the system in my head. I'm remembering what it feels like to be the only intelligence in the loop. That feeling is a muscle. And like any muscle, it atrophies if you never use it. The craft doesn't need to be alone forever. It just needs to be alone sometimes. Read every line you ship. The hardest rule I've set for myself is also the one that's kept me honest. If I can't explain it, I don't commit it. That sounds obvious. But with AI, the temptation to skip understanding is real. The tests are green, the logic is dense, and it would take 20 minutes to untangle what the model did in 10 seconds. I've learned to treat AI-generated code like code I'm inheriting from a teammate who's left the company. I go through it line by line, not with trust, but with curiosity. I rename things until they speak clearly. I break apart clever one-liners into simple steps. I write a comment above every block that originally felt opaque. Sometimes I'll find a subtle bug, a missing null check, an off by one that tests didn't catch. More often, I'll find a place where the code solves the problem correctly, but doesn't express the intent, and that matters. The next person to read it, maybe me 6 months from now, deserves that clarity. This practice doesn't make me fast. It makes me solid, and I'm learning that solid is worth more than fast in the long run. Let AI teach you how to think, not just what to type. There's a way to use AI that actually deepens your craft. It's when you stop asking, "Write this for me," and start asking, "How would you think about this?" I found it oddly powerful to treat the AI as a thinking partner. I'll describe a design problem, just a paragraph, and ask, what are the trade-offs here? What questions should I be asking? It's not about getting the right answer. It's about surfacing perspectives I hadn't considered. The insight I take away from these exchanges isn't code. It's mental models, ways of framing problems. And then I go offline and apply those models myself. The AI acts as a lens, not a crutch. This, I think, is the highest use of these tools. They can show you the shape of a solution so that you can build it with your own hands, more wisely than before. Your craft doesn't get replaced, it gets informed. Here's the single thought I keep returning to. The craft isn't about avoiding tools, it's about staying close enough to the work that you never lose the feeling of building something yourself. AI can accelerate you, but only if you stay in the driver's seat. The developers I admire most don't resist change. They don't chase it either. They hold space for their own thinking, even as the tools get faster. They treat understanding as a non-negotiable. They protect the quiet moments where skill deepens, and they read their own code, line by line, before it ever reaches the world. You don't need to be perfect at this. I'm certainly not. But being intentional, that's the whole game. If this was useful, consider subscribing. No pressure, just if you want more like it. Thanks for watching. Go build something. Calmly.